Hey everyone, today for another vlog, and today it's a very off-the-cuff topic. It just seemed important, like right here, right now, to talk about this. Today I want to talk about the trap of self-improvement. So, first off, what do I mean by that? I don't mean to say that self-improvement is a trap. I meant to say that the trap is that self-improvement seems to attract people who hate themselves. So, I would consider myself one of those people. And there's another trap that I won't talk about much in this video, but I just want to mention, just to emphasize the difference. Right? I would say that meditation, for example, has a trap related to people who want to avoid their emotions, which doesn't mean that this is what meditation does to you. It just means that it attracts those kind of people. So I'm not going to talk about meditation here. I'm just going to talk about self-improvement in general and how it attracts people who hate themselves. So I think it's quite obvious how to make the connection between the two, right? Because when you hate them, when you hate yourself, self-improvement gives you a way to feel like you don't have to hate yourself as much because you're working on yourself and you're getting more results and so on. And that definitely has value, right? That's why I'm not saying that self-improvement itself is a trap. It absolutely has value, and maybe it might be a very good stepping stone towards being more accepting into yourself, right? Like when you have more like discipline and you can get up in the morning and you can do like more normal things in society, it's easier to love yourself, for example, right? So I can see the value in that, but the pattern that is very hard to dissolve is this pattern of self-hatred and all the explicit or implicit ways in which one can sort of hate themselves. Like, so explicit might be something like literally telling yourself, like a part of yourself, a part of your thoughts, telling you that you're worthless and all that. An interesting thought that just came up is the fact that actually a lot of voices that we have in our heads, especially the critical ones, they actually might not be from us. Like they might actually be internalized voices from people who are very critical to us, and we just sort of like internalize them because we are so used to hearing them that we just thought they were true. And I'm not really going to go much in depth into that, but it's a pretty mind blowing idea that this could be true for you, and it certainly was true for me. So I just want to throw this out there. But so I was talking about explicit or implicit ways of hating yourself, and I think explicit ones have not been as dominant in my life lately, but they were certainly there before, like just explicitly telling myself, like in my mind, like, dude, this, what's wrong with me? Like, I'm just a piece of shit and all that. And it's like I can't seem to do anything right. I'm worthless. Like, you know, I'm only good at school, and even that, I'm not amazing. Things like that. Like the voices in my head used to be really harsh, and now it's not the case. So now it's more implicit, and one of these implicit sense is the sense of constant superiority, or like always chasing superiority, always trying to get better. And the wording is really sneaky, right? Like what does it mean to get better? Like getting better means that implicitly means that there is something wrong with you right now. But is that even true? Like, who says that? Like, who says that you need to get better and so on? And so I think this framing of getting better is really problematic overall. I think it's not a good framing. The idea that you need to get better, especially the word need, right? Like need, should. These words are very. These are not words I like using. Um, and it might not seem like a big deal, right? Like the words you use to talk to yourself, but in my experience, it's a huge deal. Like the framing that you use, it actually makes a huge difference. And the framing that I kind of run more, or like I try to get more into, is like it's simply about living life in a more easy way, really. Like it's the difference between doing what's easy and doing what's easy to live with, right? Because when you think about it, like what is the point of self-improvement? The point of self-improvement is genuinely to add more ease to your life, but this is not the same thing as doing what's easy, right? Like having a healthy body, eating healthy, those are things that are more easy to live with, but they are not easy per se, right? They can certainly be easy, right? The two things are not in dichotomy, but more often than not, there's a certain tension, right? And in face of that tension, you can choose one or the other, or you can make it such that there's no dichotomy, or that there's several solutions to this problem, but uh, there seems to show this problem seems to show up a lot. Right? That the thing that is easy to live with, like having a healthy body, having healthy relationships, having a job you like and all that, it requires things that are not easy, such as uh, a regular exercising habit, changing the people you talk to, right? Like changing friends or changing job. That's very scary to quit your job. Right? Like there seems to be this tension of easy versus what's easy to live with. And I think this framing is just better when you just think about, I wish to add more ease to my life instead of like improving myself, because improving yourself, as I just said, it's it's a very like self-worth based framing, like this idea that if you don't do it then you're a piece of shit, but this is not true. Like, there are many reasons why uh, working on yourself is difficult, and it's not necessarily because you don't have the discipline or the willpower. Sometimes it's just not the right approach, right? Like I quickly mentioned, but it's actually a huge point. This difference between trying to get yourself more to do something, or trying to dissolve the resistance, right? Like making it such that the thing that is easy to live with is also easy, right? Because if the two things are aligned, then it's a lot. And suddenly you don't need to make a choice, right? Like you can have both. And what I mean by that is something more concrete, such as making it such that you enjoy eating healthy food, like choosing food that is healthy and enjoyable. Like that is definitely possible, right? It's not immediate. It might not. It might take more time. It might take more money, but you can have both. You can have healthy and enjoyable food already, but you just need to make more effort to uh, get it and find what you enjoy. Right? So the real trade-off is more with food. The real trade-off is more like quality, which is the combination of health plus enjoyment versus effort. I think that's the real trade-off. Right? Like you can't get high quality food without effort. It's hard for me to imagine how. Like you'd probably need to cook it yourself or like prepare it yourself, and that takes time, right? So that is some effort. But this is one example of aligning what's easy and what's easy to live with, and this is certainly making your life more rich, right? Making your life more rich, more easy, and so on. But is it really self-improvement? Like it's a framing I don't like. I don't like the framing of self-improvement anymore. But it was certainly easy. Sorry, it was certainly important at some point of my life to have this framing, because at least what you have in the self-improvement framing is that you actually care about your life and you actually care about making a change instead of the culture of complaining that I don't know if I made a vlog or not. I don't really remember. I made a blog post way back about like the doom attitude in society, and yeah, it's the courageous part of the self-improvement people is that they decide to make a change, and that's very very commendable. But I think the limiting framing, in my opinion, what I found to be limiting is this subtle self-hatred, which doesn't really go away when you improve, when you go on the self-improvement path. And I think that's kind of what you end up realizing, in my opinion. But the efforts were not in waste, right? The efforts that led you to the place of realizing that you still don't love yourself, they were not in waste, because obviously you improved aspects of your life, but it's just that you didn't address the emotional issue of hating yourself. But it was important, right? Like I'm not saying that self improvement is useless. I'm not saying it's bad, whatever. I'm just saying it's a limited framing, and I'm talking about one of its limits. And yeah, so I give an example of aligning easy and easy to live with, and maybe it's worth talking about the root of this self hatred, right? Like, so for me, the self hatred started with basically just constantly being laughed at in school, in primary school. So like when I was like 5 or 6 to 12, that was like the main period. And also in secondary school, where like until I was 15, I was um I was the smart kid, you know, like people always made fun of me. I'm still not sure why, but that's simply how it is. Of me being the smart kid, I didn't think it was a big deal when I was in secondary school and going older, but now that I have much more perspective and emotional understanding of myself, it's clear that it was incredibly damaging. Like, because as a child, you're very vulnerable, you're completely dependent on your environment to survive, and you don't have a choice for in your environment. Right? Like, if you're in a school and you just keep making fun of it, what are you going to do? Like, you know, you like it's not like you have a choice but to be in school as a child. And so like there's this completely overwhelming sensation of powerlessness and feeling like shit. And because you're so powerless about changing your situation, what does a child do? More often than not, they start blaming themselves. They start telling themselves that, you know, if so many people make fun of me, then that means that there's something wrong with me, which is kind of an which is kind of a rational decision, in the sense of how to say, uh, making sense of the world, right? But it's obviously a very it's obviously a very like ignorant decision, because obviously it's lacking the context that the people around you, they are completely full of their own wounds and their own insecurities and their own biases and their own ignorances and so on. So, you know, it makes a lot of sense that the psyche would work this way. It would start blaming itself because it doesn't really have any other option to make sense of the world, right? It's hard for me to imagine a child's mind jumping to the conclusion that everyone around me is wrong and I am, you know, there's nothing wrong with me and everyone else is dumb. It's kind of I don't see how a child mind could come up to that conclusion, but yeah, you know, so it makes sense, but it's certainly not. It doesn't feel good to always have uh, this constant survival instinct kicking in, because it doesn't feel safe around people, because you know, for most of my life I I was so like I was just the victim of being laughed at, right? So for most of my life I felt very unsafe towards people, and I still feel unsafe towards people, because that stuff doesn't magically go away, right? And I'm not sure actually why the body and the mind, they don't uh, they don't update themselves to the new situation, because in my current situation as an adult, I'm not laughed at. I'm, you know, the situation is very different, and I'm an adult, so I have a choice to like leave and all that. But my body hasn't updated itself, so to speak. And I've actually never really understood why the body doesn't seem to update. But so the so the work of trauma is that it's basically learning to update the body to the new situation, to show it, you know, not just say it, but to show it and to feel it, that you're no longer in those overwhelming parts of your life. And you know, that usually involves going back in the past and also being very good at grounding in the present, right? As you might imagine, both parts are important. Going back in the past is important because you need to express the overwhelming charge that was never expressed and that was just buried inside your unconscious and your body. And grounding yourself in the present is important to feel, to realize, and to make the distinction that you are no longer in the present, the past, right? So yeah, I hope that was clear, an explanation for, well, an exposition of my personal history of self-hatred. This is to me the clearest cause and effect, right? Like the But there are still many things I don't understand about the self-hatred. Self-hatred is a weird thing. It has two manifestations. It has a mental manifestation, which is thoughts and words, and it also has like an emotional and a slash a body uh, component, right? Like feeling tense in your belly. That's really really common for me. So that's more like the body. And I guess in the mental one, now that I think about it, there's like two components even there. There's like an explicit one, like wait, I'm not sure if I was talking about self-hatred or fear, but I think it's self-hatred. Let me think. I think I was talking about fear, but whatever. Yeah, whatever. Well, even in the mental one, there's explicit and implicit one, and it's kind of weird. Like there are many ways in which I feel afraid around people, and I kind of still beat myself up unconsciously, and it's really hard to undo it. And there's too many things I don't understand. Right? Like sometimes I just feel tense in my belly, and I don't know why. Like I cannot identify a trigger, and I'm just confused. But in those moments, I think the right thing to do, I would say, is just to learn how to ground yourself in the present, even if you can't identify like the link, because understand, like you can still do something if you even if you don't understand it fully, right? So yeah, there's still many things I don't understand by myself hatred, but I think this entire pattern of self improvement and self hatred, I've definitely seen it quite well in myself. Right? Like I can't think of like any other major component that plays into my self hatred other than like this literally just this, like it's crazy how much your entire life gets shaped by your childhood, which you had absolutely no control over. Like it really makes me think about like how little we actually shape our lives. It might sound like very like negative such depressing, but in some ways it's kind of how to say, it can be a beautiful opportunity, right? Because like it also means that, how to say, what we want life to be might not necessarily be what we get, and that might be actually really really beautiful, because it means that like what this means is that plans basically don't work as you want them to be. And so yeah, like changing yourself is really fucking hard, and maybe you want to do something and you can't, and that failure leads you to do something else, and you find out that you actually enjoy it much more. I don't know, like I thought I was going to be like, a very like super specialized mathematician. Like when I was in secondary school, the subject I was best at was math. I mean, I had the top grades in general, but like that was the subject I wanted most, because it was just really interesting to like understand something in math. Right? Like I really like that feeling, and I thought that was the path I was going to go. Mathematician, university and all that. And in my second year of university, I could already tell that I didn't want that path, and it kind of felt shitty, because it felt like that was the only thing I was good at. It was not really true, but that's how it feels. And it felt kind of shitty. And then I realized that there's actually way more to life, and I don't know. I don't know if those two things coincided, but like me not knowing what to do other than math. And in my second year, that was also when I started drawing, and that was when I started really like, yeah, finding something other than like work/school that I really enjoyed, and that was a really nice like opportunity that just arose in my life. So I think that's really cool. I think the fact that we are not feeling so much in control of our lives as much as we would like to imagine. I think that's something that we should embrace, instead of like trying to like fiercely reject and try to control it anyway, and try harder. It feels like to me like half of life is about simply accepting what is there, instead of just fighting, right? Like it's crazy how much we fight for like nothing. It's just wasted effort, right? It's crazy to me. Yeah, it's like I'm kind of babbling from the original topic, but yeah. So the original topic was self-improvement, and I think I gave a pretty clear picture of like what I mean by the trap of self-improvement, which is this subtle self-hatred that is not acknowledged. And you could imagine like how far someone could go, right, with this entire self-improvement thing. They could go like really far, and because they never address the actual root issue, it's basically infinite, right? Like there's no amount of self-improvement can address your self hatred, unfortunately. So yeah, that's kind of the trap, right? It's like you're thirsty for water, and self-improvement it doesn't give you water. it's it's kind of fucked up, you know. But yeah, yeah, it takes a certain experience to get this. I feel it's kind of hard to like show what self-hatred is if you don't see it in yourself. So yeah, thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.